Okay. So how is the perfect connection, that connection that takes place to MS, how does this take place? Und das kommt der Masber sein, do in Zohar. This is what he's coming to explain over here in the Zohar. As is do almo tato, there exists the lower world. Un almo ilo, and the upper world. These they seine mitzad abriya, as they are from creation. As the Zohar says, the kad bro kutshabrichu olma, when the kutshabrichu Hashem created the world, Ovad Olmo Tato, Kigavno the Olmo, he made the lower world similarly, Kigavno to the Almo Ilo. Was demos, at that point, is a snore Kigavno. It's similar. And all this corresponds in this world corresponds to the other world. Bis as almotato is a kli to the extent that they're so much corresponding to each other that the lower world becomes a vessel to receive from the upper world. How, however, is that connection in such a way that it should all be in one wholesomeness, in Shleimo Chada? How do you make it into one Shleimo Chada? Is das durch der Hagdome von Lo'on Be'eraisa. That comes through the introduction of the effort in the studying of the Torah. Torah, Vibald in Yona is emes, since Torah is truth. Is Zimavrich Menakotz Alakotz. So that goes, it strings from one extreme to the other extreme. For them Kotzachi Elyim is them Kotzachi Tachton, from the most highest corner to the lowest of the corners. Und damit wird nisgale der Emes von jeder Madrege Protis. That point, the truth of each individual level is revealed. Was the Emes Metzias von jeden Oilom is Göttlichkeit. The true entity, existence of each world is godliness. There is nothing besides Hashem. Und das ist in Yonli von jeden Oilom. This is the aspect of every world. Und nochmal, each world is its godliness. And furthermore, from yed, not only the world in general, from yed nivra v'noitzer v'nase proti, every created being, everything that was formed, anything that was individually made, any particular matter. Zumakir sein. So the world and creation need to recognize Elokus godliness als inyone v'tziyure ha-proti from yad nolam. That they should recognize that this is the idea, this is the specific shape of every world individualized. Und zu megale sein, das Gufas in Nilvade, and to reveal that fact itself, that there's nothing besides Hashem. To recognize and to reveal that. Kedei aber as der Emes von Ereise soll der Herr werden in Welt, in order, however, that the truth of Torah should be sensed in the world. Ba'al Meilah and Ba'al Motato, in the upper world and lower world, is thus durch Adam Allah Barasi, durch Eden. That's through, I have created man on the world, and that is the way to give this sense to the world through the Yid, through Yid. Und das ist der Zohar Magdim. This is what the Zohar introduces. As Havi Yasvi Lelechad V'la'on B'eraisa. They were sitting one evening, one night, and they were harving, putting effort in Torah. Valdur V'la'on Dar Yegia B'Torah. The fact that you put an effort in Torah, was mi zich mevatel zu Torah, that you negate, you subjugate yourself to Torah, because you're putting the effort in the Torah. Vertman akeli, then you become a vessel, a vehicle, as durch dem soll nimshach v'nizgala werden, that through this you will extend and reveal the b'chinas emes sheb'Torah, the level of emes which is in the Torah. Ubemela, and therefore, poiltes lemeheve kula b'shlim uchod, you influence it to be completely one. The achdus von olma tato mit alma lo k'meshehem, in their level as they are to be the level of unity. Vorum es wird der Herd, the emetze metzias von jeden oilem protikinal, because you are able to sense the true existence of each detailed, each particular world, that it's all godliness. And that's why the Zohar introduced this idea of Lo Be'eraisa. Apikol Hanal, so based on all the above, that men verstehen, we will understand the meaning from Agoshas Yehuda to Yosef. This that Yehuda came close to Yosef, Vayigash Yehuda. Was Teuchnois Kinal. The meaning of that coming close is as above. Tikrofta the Alma Ba'alma Lis Chado, bringing one world to the other world to unite them, Dabido Lemehevekul Echad. To bring the two worlds of Yehuda and Yosef together, to unite them one with the other, they should become really one. Ubahagdim. Before we're going to explain, the Rebbe brings out, introduces, as is Yedua, der Biur Hachilik zwischen Yosef and Yehuda in Avodas Hashem. It is known, explaining what is the difference between Yosef and Yehuda in service of Hashem. As in Yonah Shel Yosef is Talmud. Yosef's aspect is study. And in Yonah Shel Yehuda is Maisa. Is Talmud, study, and Maisa. High time. For that reason, in Bisman Hazeh, nowadays, Yosef Hecher von Yehuda, the study, because that's greater than Maisa. That's why nowadays Yosef is higher than Yehuda, was the far. Vayigash of Yehuda. That's why Yehuda comes to Yosef. Agoshas Yehuda Yosef. Because Yosef is on the higher Madrega. B'de Maskone in Gemara, this is the conclusion of the Gemara, as Talmud Godel, that the study is greater than Maisa, than action. Mashenkin Losi Lovi, as opposed to the future to come, that Yehuda Zayin Hecher from Yosef. Then Yehuda will be higher than Yosef. The Avdi David Melech Aleichem. Over there, David will be the king. He will be higher. Va'la osid lovei that nizgala werden the milas hamaisa. Over the future to come, the advantage that action has will be revealed, and that's why he will be greater at that time. That's why Yehuda will be greater, action. Then will be Maisa Godel. So, for the Sichos Bore, this requires explanation. Der Tam Farvos Talmud Godel, why is greatness of Talmud? So the Gemara, Val Talmud Mevel de Maisa, because Talmud brings to action. Therefore, Nimtzu Shneim Biyode. So He has both. When he does Talmud, because Talmud leads to Maisa, so doing Talmud, he'll have both. He has both advantages. Aside from Talmud, aside from Maisa, because the Talmud is going to lead him to the Maisa. He'll have both the learning and the action. Was der Funis verstandig when he gave to La'asid Lovi. So from this, we understand, so when we're talking La'asid Lovi, that Maisa is going to be greater. As those was Maisa Godel, when you say that Maisa is greater, meint es as wird sein größer, that means it's going to be greater, nicht nur von Talmud b'fnei atzmei, not just than Talmud on its own, nor auch von Talmud, wie is in sich koilu de meilas amaisa. But also when we discuss Talmud as it includes in itself the advantage of action, because we say Shnei and Biyodei, that's why it's called Talmud. And this is, Maisa is going to be greater than that Talmud. So we need to understand, wie kann man sagen, as Maisa soll sein, hecher von dem, was Shnei and Biyodei. How could Maisa be greater, higher than if you have both? In Bisman, as we have Talmud and Maisa. And then we'll only have Maisa. How could that Maisa be greater? Muzman Zogan, so we have to say. As those was La'osid Lovi is Maisa Godel, that when we say in the future to come Maisa is greater, is as Valdamus vet Maisa vermogen in sich beide Meilas. Is because Maisa will include, it will own both advantages, Maisa with Talmud. Not going to be just Maisa. It's going to have both. V'yiseidim is not only is it going to have both, Kishem v'bizman hazeh, is Talmud mevili de Maisa, the learning brings you to action, is La'asid Lovi v'zayin farkeret. And then in the future will be farkeret, will be the opposite, as durch Maisa, that through doing v'tarish kumen mailos ha-Talmud, that will express and bring out the advantage of Talmud through your Maisa. So what's the explanation? Can we say, by first asking the surprise, how are they going to know what to do? Saying Maisa is Godel, action, but he's not going to know what to do without learning. Talmud, man, is like before you're studying. How are you going to have action? We can say, in the future to come, what's going to be is going to be no impurity. The spirit of impurity I'll remove from the land. And therefore, so Hashem will remove the possibility of having one's inclination forcing him to doing against the will of Hashem. The glory of Hashem will be revealed. All flesh will see that Hashem has spoken. Is to the extent there's going to be so much godliness and so much removal of impurity that everything is going to be revealed from Hashem. Is to the extent as the Einavet Shirayim is already did by Arbitun. Like it's on Shabbos. The fig is going to yell out if a person is going to want to pick a fig on Shabbos. The fig itself will scream and say that you can't work the field, you can't collect, you can't pick on Shabbos. So you're not going to need to study the laws of Shabbos in order to prevent it, because the tree itself is not going to allow you to collect on Shabbos. Just like a baby, a tiny child, steckt mit sein Hand in fire, does not stick his hand into the fire. He doesn't understand, but you don't have to understand. You don't have to learn to know that. That's just instinctive. Why? When a behemoth springt, it's in fire, and an animal doesn't jump into fire. So we're not going to need to learn in order what to do, because it's going to not be allowed to happen. Ches. Es redt sich in Chassidus, it's discussed in Chassidus as der Tam von dem man der Omer as Meise Godel. What's the reason of the opinion that says action is greater? Is nicht also mit Sadem Inyan von Meise Mitzvahs Kshala Atzma. It's not the actual idea doing the mitzvah by itself, nor but Meise is Melosha Meise in Allah Tzedakah. When we say Meise, comes from the language we force for tzedakah. You force to give tzedakah. Ma'aseh represents not just doing, but forcing yourself. The inyan akviya, the idea to force yourself. Ma'aseh mitzvahs is la mitoso mitzat kabbalos malchus yisbarach. In truth, the action, force of mitzvah is the accepting of the yoke of Hashem's kingdom. The kviyo bittul zum rotzen elyon, the forcing and subjugation to the will of above. And the father is Meise Gottel. That's why Meise is greater. While der bittul kviya was is in Meise mitzvah, that subjugation, the forcing yourself in which you force to do a mitzvah, is shorshei from the etzem hanefesh. That is rooted in the essence of the soul. Was is hecher from Seichel Talmud. That's higher than the intellect, the idea of study. Und der Chilik von Zman Hazeh und L'Osid Love. And the difference between nowadays and the future to come, der Bittel wie es herzig Bizman Hazeh, the subjugation as we sense it in nowadays, is the Madrege von Yirat Torah. That's the lower level of Yira, which is Bittel Chitzoni. It's an external level of subjugation. Was der Bittel is verbunden mit Koyach Achitachten. That's tied to the very lowest of the powers of the person. That Inyan Hayira v'Kabbalah Soil, the idea of fear, accepting the yoke. The far is Bizman Hazeh Talmud Godel. That's why nowadays the Talmud is greater. Shah Talmud maybe Lidei Maisa, because the Talmud brings you to the level of Maisa, while the Madrege von Kfir Maisa kommt mit Sadatei Chochma. It comes because of the level of Torah versus Chochma, wie der Seder ist Ausschluss von Koiches HaNefesh, in the order of the evolution of the powers of the soul, Seichel Midesu Machshava Dibur Maisa. The intellect, the emotions, and then Machshava Dibur Maisa. So Maisa comes after Talmud. Talmud Godel, so Talmud Mevule Maisa, in the order of the Ishtalshus. L'osid Love, in the future to come, however, Vedzayin Begilu the Bittel Shebe Maisa. So what kind of a bittel is it going to be in the Maisa? The bittel shemitzad etzem hanefesh. That's the bittel from the essence of the soul. Was the Fari's Maisa Godel. Because that's going to be a high level of bittel. It's going to be the level of Maisa, the etzem hanefesh. We bald as the etzem hanefesh is doch der shedish from alle koichs hanefesh, and because the essence of the soul is the root of all other powers of the soul. The river, therefore, b'shas is nisgala der etzem hanefesh. Durch Maisa, when the essence of the soul is revealed through action, bringt b'meila euch dem gilu von alle keiches hanefesh. That already automatically brings along the revelation of all powers of the soul, because you touch the essence of the soul, and that's the root of all the keiches hageluyim. This is eine verbunden mit shorshim etzem hanefesh, and they're revealed as they are tied to the root etzem hanefesh. So it turns out, as in the Maisa Godel from the Osid Lovei, the greatness of action and the future to come is do b'hoisofa to Milas HaMaisa, in addition to the advantage of Maisa, Eich Milas HaTalmud, because this will bring the Etzem HaNefesh. The Etzem HaNefesh impacts all the Koiches HaGeluyim as well. V'yiseirim hazeh. The Talmud is verbunden with Etzem HaNefesh. It will bring the connection as the Talmud is connected with the Etzem Nefesh, not only with the Chitzonius, with the Yira Tator, Chitzonius Nefesh, but with the essence of Nefesh. Test, ab Isabel und euch muss man werden die zwei Kzovis, Benigel Malchus Yehud, Lost Love, in the two uh, extremes with regards to the kingdom of Yehuda in the future. As we Avdi David, Davke Melech Aleim, that the king is going to be Avdi David. Aber leidoch is das in an Eufen. But on the other hand, nit as Yosef wird bottled. It's not that he becomes nullified, so there's no more Yosef. Nor was es is dort der Achdus zwischen Yosef and Yehuda, but there is the unity between Yosef and Yehuda. Vasisim leitz echad v'echad v'yodi, making them into one wood, be one wood in my hand. The tam for vos v'avdi David Davke Melech Aleim is, why is Davke my servant David, is val Davke Maisa, because it's specifically action in which there is the idea of subjugation, of forcing the length in Etzem HaNefesh Malam Kol HaKochos. That reaches the essence of the soul, which is higher than all powers. Aber, durch dem Gufa wird nirgash in jedem Koil b'fnei Atzmei. But once you reach the Etzem HaNefesh, that brings about that in every koyach by itself you should feel amitas in yoni vidosim mitzada in your ha'etzem, the true idea of each of the koyachs as it is from the etzem. Ubitl shebehakoyach shemitzad nefesh nefesh, and the subjugation of the koyach which comes from the etzem nefesh. As the inyone from them seichel v'limud, that what is the idea of this idea, the study is nitkin inyan b'fnei atzmei seichel al seichel. It's not independent, an idea because it's just an idea. Nor there is a chelik or prat from them etzem, but that chochma, that limud, that seichel is a detail, a part of the etzem. Und der Fahr wird Davke damals sein, die Emes Achdus. That's why then will be the true Achdus. Vasisim le'etz echad v'oy echad b'yodi. Make them into one wood, will be one wood, one in my hand. B'shas mezok Talmud maybe lidei ma'ise. When we say Talmud ma'ise, is afo pias durch them is nim tushneim b'yodim, even though you get them both. But they remain two separate ideas, two separate advantage, greatness. Talmud and Maisa. The Baldas Talmud maybe the Maisa. Since Talmud brings to Maisa, is Talmud Godel. That's why Talmud is greater. But even as Talmud steht for Maisa. That's why Talmud stands higher than Maisa. Shas ober esvert misgala. Durch Maisa, der Bittel Shemitzad Etzem HaNefesh, when, however, you reveal through your action the subjugation that comes from the essence of the soul, is Oich Megala Ha'inyan in alle Koiches HaNefesh B'fnei Atzmo. That reveals the idea in all of independent individual Koiches HaNefesh. Dan wird an Achdus B'shlimu Chad zwischen all Koiches. Then it becomes a union in one wholeness in all koiches. The far kommt Aresh benegeit zu Malchus David losi lobi. That's why it turns out, as it pertains to the kingdom of David in the future, das wird nicht sein beöfen. It's not going to be in a way as Malchus Yehuda is goiver. Oifun hechaf Malchus Yosef. That Malchus Yehuda is going to overpower, or be higher than Malchus Yosef. But das is euch Malchus Yisrael. That's also the Malchus Yisrael. It's not different. Und das kommt bald ve'avdi David Melech Aleim. My servant David, the David avdi nosi lo'ilam. Sein Melucha is nit ba'oifon. It's in a way of a servant. Nit ba'oifon shall hisnasus v'reimus, not raising and exaltness. But an oifon from bitlu v'David aviv. It's in a way of subjugation, like his father David. But he was in total humility and kept himself low. Was in Rambam, as also in the Rambam, V'im Yamed Melech mebeis David. If a king of the house of David will get up, he is studying the Torah and occupied mitzvahs like his father David. Nit nor sein Esek mitzvahs is bebitel kedavid David. Not only the mitzvahs that he does is like David, nor euch sein limud Torah is betel, but also his study of Torah is with effort and subjugation. But this is the chibur from Bela Milas. This is like the connected to Milas of Talmud Yosef or Ma'aser Yehuda. So the Rebbe explains that this is why ultimately it's to reveal the bittel in the koiches pnimium, so that Malchus Yehuda, Malchus Yosef is not two separate things, because Avdi David impacts that the kingdom, like David, it becomes also the Malchus Yosef. That this is also uh, it's not overpowering Yosef, but that becomes Malchus Yisrael because of the level of the true unity, and that is all explained from the Zohar, that with the level of Torah Emes, which reaches out into the highest level. Of course, this is deep in Yonim and Chassidus. We have to go this over again, but we'll leave this for now. Sichos and Maimer Shalis Parshas Vayigash Tovshin Lamed Beis, and Maimer Divra Maschil V'Avdi David Tovshin Mem Beis.